public meeting in order. We do have one citizen to be heard, so we'll let them speak and have their 3 minutes right now. We have a Ken Barron. Let's get in now.
Where do I get to speak from at this
We're
point?
going to have to speak about the 13. Does really count on our agenda, but it's on.
Yeah, my name is Ken Barron. I live at 402 Cascades in the Country Club, and I'm the director for the HOA there, particularly in regards to drainage issues within the Country Club. And today is approximately the 3-year anniversary of a major rain event that we had back in July of 2021, in which the Country Club and other parts of Rockport flooded so badly. To the city's credit, we have completed projects at Hole 10 and at Hole 11. We have 3 more small projects completed. We need new catch basins at the ponds at Hole 13, Pond 14, and Pond 17. With these ponds, if the overflow drains are not big enough to handle, and there's no secondary backup drain for those areas, so the water overflows into neighborhoods, streets, and people's homes. So we're looking to get the money to put 3 catch basins in. We don't need to add any new piping in. The piping there is big enough. We just need to create openings in the piping to allow the flood water to get into the pipes. The pipes are big enough as is right now. They are operating far below capacity. We need to get flood water into those pipes by putting in catch basins. So I'm asking you to include budget money in your budget discussions for installing those 3 catch basins. Additionally, I would like to include budget money for doing your preliminary engineering study and budget for installing a new larger capacity drain from hole 1 to hole 10, the ponds there. That goes underneath Champions Drive. That will be a major project and probably require grant money to accomplish. But before we can ask for grant money, we need to know how much money we need to ask for. So we need to do a preliminary engineering study to determine that. So in your budget discussions, please include us in your thoughts. We need to resolve these problems because the flooding is not going to go away until you guys solve the problem. So hopefully we can include that in this year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to do a roll call real quick. Ward 1? Here. Ward 2?
Here.
Ward 3?
Here.
Ward 4? Here. Mayor is absent, but we do have quorum, so we're now going to go into executive session. The City Council will recess its open meeting and convene an executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, to seek advice from his attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation, a settlement offer, or on a matter in which the duty of attorney to a governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas for the conflicts of the Chapter 2 with PUC Docket Number 55942, Petition of the Ratepayers Appeal to City Water and Wastewater Rate and 2 Water and Wastewater Rate Appeals. We are now in executive session at 11:04. council meeting back into session at 12:41. We're gonna move up agenda items. No, we have business items. Regular session discussions. We're gonna move up top the hotel occupancy tax fund because we have all these people waiting for us to number one, so we're gonna do that next. Vanessa?
So you have your binder with everybody's full application in there. I'm gonna boil the information down and present two scenarios that we staff and a few other people around have discussed that might be beneficial. The first thing I'll say is our estimated hot taxes this year are right at 1 million. I'm comfortable asking Robbie to push it up to 1.2, and that's about it. Our total requests were 1.6, so excluding our overhead and programs. So if you look in your binder, I think tab A, where's the list with the total request?
Tab 5 and tab 4. Tab 4 is a list that has the city's request and then also county, what the county's distributed.
Oh, Roman numeral F.
I'm not sure.
Okay, you're looking for a sheet that looks like this.
Got it. Number 4? Oh, all right.
This is everybody's request this year in yellow. This is what they've been awarded for the past 3 years. And this is what they're awarded from the county, or have been the past 3 years. So you can see what each group applied is getting, okay? That's just the base 1.6 with no city overhead or programs, okay? So then, what tab is this? Are these two?
Those are Roman numeral 5.
Okay, so if you go to Roman numeral 5, I'll present the more complicated one first. We have those requests here, and we have an option that we are presenting to take all of the marketing money. If you look on this sheet, nope, not that sheet. The original marketing request was about $700,000, right? Almost, yeah, 750, something like that. So in an effort to consolidate marketing efforts, an item we've discussed is taking all the hot marketing money out of every request, hiring a professional on city staff that does marketing, and put that money into marketing, get a board of stakeholders that person reports to, basically like the Parks Board. So the Parks Board would direct and recommend where the marketing money is spent. Everybody following me? Okay. So if we do that, we have our city request on a separate sheet, but this sheet also has the city's request at the top. The city would take $700,000. That's for our programs, our overhead, hiring a professional, and doing marketing for all entities. And then we have reduced the request to fit the 1.2 budget. It's almost 1.3. We have a healthy reserve. It's not magnanimous, but I think we could dip into it that far if we don't make the revenues. Additionally, when we get the short-term rentals in, I think we will get an influx in revenue. So I'm comfortable with this 1.28. We have reduced everybody's costs. Remember, we got 1.6 million in requests. We bring in 1.2. The city's pulling out 700,000 for their efforts. So the things that are on here did get reduced. Everybody's ask got reduced. Okay? Questions so far? Give you a minute. With this, we would continue with the visitor center as it is. Shelly and her group runs the visitor center. We would need to pay them for that service because part of their advertising ask in previous years has supported a portion of the people, the building, and their ad materials and things like that that they display. So we would need to continue to fund that. We would only pull out the advertising, hire an advertising professional. In my mind, the board makeup is the art center, someone from the chamber, a hotelier, a restaurateur, and a council member. I mean, you can make it bigger. You can put someone from RCAD on there. You know, you put the Maritime Museum. You don't want to get it too big, but we want to select people that are going to have the best interest of the whole group. Art Center, because it's partially ours, and it's one of our biggest consumers of hot funds. I think a seat there is very important. The chamber represents a lot of the interested parties. Hotelier, just to bring that vantage point so that they have a say. Restaurateurs saying, this is all tourism. And then I think we need to have a council member to bring back recommendations to council for spending. So that's scenario one. Do you want comments on scenarios? Do you want comments from the audience, or you want to just work session?
We can take comments. I'd like to hear what they.
Okay. So I'll go through scenario 2, right? And then we'll do that. So if we leave everything like it is, the second sheet has the city's request at the top. Everybody else's request is not as is, as cut. We have a little bit of cutting to do on this one in the arts. We can only spend $360,000 and, no, that's not right. Hold on.
30%, is that right?
30% on art is $360,000, and we're at 357, so that's fine.
So I think, yeah.
Let's see the other one.
Yeah.
So this is everything as is. Everybody takes their own marketing money. They do their own thing. The city takes out $300,000 for programs and administration. Everybody's cut down to 1.37. That's a little high. I would like to see it go lower, just because I'm not comfortable with what will be coming. Our hot money is decreasing year over year. I don't expect anything different. The difference I expect is with the addition of the STRs. So those are the two scenarios. Do you guys have questions?
Yes, that too. We're good on the arts, but I guess we were fudging that in the last couple, I guess, of distributions for forever. We were funding the arts a lot more than we were.
So this one is at
statutorily allowed to.
392, our allowable is 360. We would have to cut that back some.
Are you asking years past?
Years past, we were wrong.
I'm not 100% sure that maybe all those numbers were looked at, totals and percentages.
Okay.
We're definitely keeping a closer eye on it than we have in the past.
Okay. Well, I just want to justify maybe some of the cuts.
Mm-hmm. We have a percentage for arts and a percentage for historical preservations, and everything we're presenting will be within that.
But I just want to say we're picking on Luis, you know.
We're not picking on Luis.
So Rockport is lucky because y'all got permission to get 30%. Normally it's 15%.
Right, we have a special rider, but anyway, so, okay.
I want to hear the comments.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have more questions.
Okay, so you lead that, you're the boss.
I'm gonna start over here. I'm gonna go there. You guys want to start with any comments, or do you guys have any? You can stand up and talk too.
Okay, so here we go with a list. I just need to see if there's representative from the public. Okay. Okay, so I definitely think there's value in employing a marketing person to oversee everything, no matter whether it comes from the chamber or, but I see the value of consolidating marketing. I think we get more bang for your buck, but it looks over the whole gamut of Rockport-Fulton than individual, right? The silos. However, I think you also have to consider your target audience is going to be different. I think the chamber does more print, so the arts does more digital. So you've got that gamut too, but as long as you have a good board that kind of oversees that, I think that's really the way to go. I know, Vanessa, when you and I talked the other day, you also mentioned that if more hot funds come in, if there's an opportunity later within the year, it's not just a one-stop shop at this time of year, that if more hot funds come in, that you are more than willing to reinvest those funds later in the year.
Yeah, so that's what I told them. If we get a huge influx from the SDRs, our mission is not to hold it, that we would do like a mid-year tranche. Now, if we get a bunch of money in, we're gonna have to increase our reserves to match. But if there's money to get out, we have an obligation to get it out.
It's not our slush fund.
Right, it's not our slush fund, and if there's an opportunity, then I think that's more than reasonable for us to consider.
So those are the 2 points that I had.
Can you just introduce yourself and say where?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Day. I live at 902 East Cornwall Street. I am the executive director for the Rockport Cultural Arts District.
Thank you so much.
Any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions? Did the Texas, did you have any comments? You can stand up.
Yes.
Just introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Abels. I'm the new executive director for the Texas Maritime Museum. Don't ask me about my address because I'm still trying to get that all down. I'll never look that up. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you so much for just doing this and having this available for everybody to kind of listen and hear. This is the first time, actually the second time, I was a part of the governmental affairs, and we kind of talked a little briefly about the scenario 1, scenario 2. I was trying to wrap my head around it, and so I'm just very interested now again, much to this point. Scenario 2 gives the organizations an opportunity to apply those funds as needed for their own marketing availability, because each and every single one of us has our particular forte, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it. And so I'm very curious on how this council would navigate those waters, no pun intended. Obviously, the fact is that we're trying to make sure that each and every single one of our organizations are able to apply those funds necessarily so that way we can hit those certain markets. And that's where I would really encourage this council to really take into consideration. Obviously, taking a hit on any sort of aspect, all of our organizations really need those funds, but we also understand that there's only so much in that pot. But I would only just encourage that posing question. I'm all in favor of scenario 1 as long as we understand how those funds are going to be applied, as well as how it's going to be presented. Thank you.
Shelly Stuart, President CEO of the Rockport-Fulton Chamber of Commerce. We're on board to support either option. My only concern is with scenario 2 being cut, we need to be cut. We can't do the new creative because the money's not in the budget for the new creative. So some of the complaint was it's the same material, but without the up, it's going to be a little bit rougher. So, but we are on board. We can see, I agree with Jennifer 100%. In fact, we have been working already towards doing some consolidating marketing of the art center and the chamber. So I see value in either option. So we just want to do what's best for the community, and who could do that best is executive team. So.
Luis Puron, Rockport Center for the Arts Executive Director. I live at 139 Heron Oaks. I'm open to the idea of option 1 as has been presented. As far as advertising for our organization, I think all of you know how versatile we are and how all of the programs that we have require like a boutique advertising and marketing approach to handling all that. In my organization presently, I'm still very involved in marketing and the advertising campaign. And then we have another position, a communications manager. And we meet pretty much every single day to effect an annual campaign that is constantly changing. So we are not able to create advertising campaigns that are static because the shows, the music series, everything that we do is constantly changing every single month. And we don't work in a vacuum, we also work with a team. We have a design team that creates all of the ads. We have a media buyer that places all of the ads. So we really have like a team approach as to how we handle that. And I mean, I feel very strongly that we need to continue doing that because, you know, it would require more than one person to really have an effect in doing that. As far as the rock is concerned, and I'll let Karen and Dale chime in for anything I may have missed that is in their heads. As far as the rock is concerned, as you know, we have an agreement with the city of Rockport to help fund its operations as well as its advertising campaign. And I know that in option one, the advertising would go away, but we would continue to need the city's support in order to make sure that that program that is very new is still viable and we continue to increment visitors to that area for either social events or business meetings. Karen, do you have anything to add?
I think just to echo that, we're very nimble at the Arts Center. We know our clients, we know our programming, and we're studying and following the impact of our marketing dollars, how they're being spent, and what the is. And when things aren't working, we pivot, we can pivot quickly. And the bigger, more things get consolidated, the harder it is to be nimble and pivot quickly. So that is something that we've always valued, is that ability to change on a dime if we need to change on a dime. I can see that being more difficult with option one, although option one certainly has some merits as well. Daryl, do you want to elaborate on any?
Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Do we have anyone else as a representative or top fund request?
Now we can go to questions if you guys have any questions.
I do.
Do you guys want to see?
I'll just add something from the hotel perspective. Jatin Bhakta, 224 Reserve Lane. I think going back to that option one, we've had a meeting with hotels and short-term rentals. I think we're in agreement that option one is probably a better bet. As what Vanessa alluded to earlier, the numbers have been declining over the past few years. So, and whether that marketing, whether those events are related to, you know, people have more options to shop when they come to Rockport, to this coastal area, I don't know, but somehow we need to take a good look at if our marketing is working. We see the numbers every year when we do the marketing workshops, but we don't know, I mean, that's looking at past year's data, and so we don't really have that handle on it. And I think actually to the point of what Karen made of like maybe pivoting, I think with having a dedicated person that can do that, I think that would allow for a better way to pivot in terms of, you know, saying, hey, this isn't working, let's go ahead and change it for the next 6 months or next event or whatever happens. And I think a higher paid position is probably the best bet. The other thing is like, in putting that, I think what it does to all the entities that collect the hot tax, it makes them put into their budget that, hey, if we want to do this XYZ that's above and beyond what this, you know, consolidated marketing effort is going to do, you're going to have to factor that in out of your collections of your ticket sales, of your revenue, to say, hey, when we do the next Art Fest or when we do the next Sea Fair, we're going to take a portion of our profit and we're going to allocate it to doing this own marketing on our own end and maybe enhance this effort. So that's going to make it where each of these entities are going to have to take their responsibility to say, you know what, I want to take $20 out of my pocket and I want to do this or whatever the fund is. I think that's one of the biggest benefits I see, that it's going to hold all these firms, all these entities a little more responsible. The other thing is that we haven't talked about is, if the city does go with this, I'm sure the county and the town of Fulton will gladly join this effort. And then you have, I'm on a pathway steering committee,
Pathways, that's $50,000 from the county. That's another $50,000 for marketing. So you start adding the 700, whatever that everybody has to put out there. This comes close to about $1 million now. You know, yeah.
The 700,000 includes our overhead and the paid position.
Right.
So it's not $1 million because the city gets.
No, but I'm saying if the town of Fulton comes in,
Okay.
let's say their marketing dollars that they're allocating is $150,000. Most of their funds goes to deposit funds. So town of Fulton comes in, the county comes in, Pathways, which is also part of the county with their marketing dollars, and you consolidate it and you have a MOU or whatever between these three entities. You know, I don't think navigation district spends anything, but on those three entities, you could pretty close to approaching $1 million in intake if you do add all of those together. And then the other thing that I think we've actually petitioned for is like increasing our sports tourism. Whether that's with the school district and the city and everybody else participating, we have to start looking at that. I travel a lot, and the times that I've been to some of these major markets, you'll see a lot of little kids checked into the hotel that you're staying at. And it's all kids playing Little League or whatever, you know, football, baseball, you name it, they're all there. And it's one of those things that we have for years and years we've neglected. And I think that's an opportunity with this consolidated fund to put a little more effort into that sports tourism. And I think that's the only way we're going to get a little more increase on our tax collection.
And then I think one more thing is to go with option one, that the cultural district being part of that board. We hold merchant meetings, we have communication with merchants, which is very, very important, so I would just throw that out.
So no decision, obviously, it's just information. You guys take it back. We have our next workshop August the 6th. So that's when we'll be asking for a direction on this. In the meantime, you have questions for me, get them to me, and we'll.
Did you guys have questions for anyone else today?
How do you see that?
Nope, you're right.
Shelly, what? I was just saying, what date did you say I didn't hear?
August 6th.
August 6th, thank you.
How do we foresee that this full FTE? Some of the concerns they addressed of how to look at the market, either the Art Center or the individual.
Yeah, there is some specialized stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and I see maybe packaging some of that stuff, you know. Jennifer needs some specialized stuff. Luis knows what he needs. He knows what he's doing. So let's piggyback those and see. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm sorry. But let's piggyback those and see if we can get a better deal. Or maybe the art center is so specialized that we cut it out and say you keep doing your own thing. But then, you know, you gotta explain to everybody else why you.
So under here, is there within the meet?
Yes.
There's a breakdown of advertising for each one, so we can consider maybe under $1 value based on the complexity of knowing if it's much higher, then obviously the complexity of the advertising is higher.
Yeah, so if you take either of these, well, scenario 2 has what they've asked for in each category. So this is the 7 categories you've adopted, and this, going this way, is where they've asked for their money. And then every entity you have a tab on. And so yes, you could analyze the complexity of the advertising. And, you know, known events, we know every year we're gonna do Seafair, Oyster Fest, whatever, you know, those things are. That would be a great opportunity to package those things. We know when they're gonna be, we know what they're gonna be, we know where they're gonna be. And then there may be some things that we say, all right, you know, Luis, you get this portion to make complete decision on the board, or I don't know. It's up in the air. We can make it what we want. And if it doesn't work, we ditch it. But to Jatin's point, we gotta do something different. Maybe this is it, maybe it's not. Next year I might be here saying this doesn't work, probably the person go back the way it was.
So I think we need to know the dollar amount of what it's gonna cost to hire somebody. And
On this page,
found under which numerical value?
4 or 5.
it's the first ones, there's 2 pages. One goes with each spreadsheet, with advertising in-house and with advertising out-house. So there's the city's breakdown of what we're asking for on this 700,000.
I see value in the option 1, or scenario 1, whatever, the in-house. I definitely see value to that. What my concern would be that we're missing some opportunities for some of these entities that are in their marketing or advertising that they've historically gotten. But I definitely see the value in doing it in-house.
If there is a real specialized niche advertising that a particular hot funds person has been received from and works for them, is there any reason they can't submit that to this board that you're gonna have and go, hey, we understand you got most of our dollars in there, but this little thing here, and if we can piggyback somebody, great, but are we gonna, would they have that ability to explain that in each piece and go, hey, this is 5,000, I've really got to do this one?
I think that could be one way.
It could be brought to the board, go, hey, could you do this for us?
But also, I don't want requests to be watered down by the board. So, if we give Luis 1 seat and he's continually sidelined for other things, that's not gonna work either, because obviously the board is gonna have the entire city interest at heart. You're gonna have your seat, but you gotta think of the whole before you can, I don't know. Make it a bigger board. That poses problems as well.
Yeah.
Maybe pull out the specialized stuff, get the generalized stuff to the in-city person. There's several ways it could work. If you guys want us to go forward with that, we'll have to explore it. We'll have to talk it through. We'll just have to talk to everybody here and see what we can make up.
But to their point of they're able to pivot. If they see something's not working, they meet daily, they can pivot on a day. And we know how government bureaucracy works. We can't, you're not going to govern,
Right.
You're not going to get the board together and be able to pivot in a day, a week, or maybe a week. But,
We're not pivoting at all
yeah,
right now.
right now. But if we have this single person, I do foresee some issues with some of the entities where that are so specialized.
Okay. You've got 2 options. Like I said, I'm here to answer questions.
But I don't know how we cut one entity out of the whole group.
It probably just could be by the value or the magnitude. But I think Jatin has a question, if you're still taking comments.
Only short. The one thing that you have to look at is in years past, this has been really fragmented, right? Every group does their own thing. They're not bringing people in. There's not a common effort among and it's not just the city. It goes to the town, to the county, all of it. With this, you have a much better way. It's just pulling up more dollars at a single effort. And I think a lot of the things that we're saying, hey, well, it won't allow to pivot off of that. I think that can be accomplished. It's just a matter of bringing it to the board. And these events are not, hey, in a month we're going to have this artist, or we're going to have, no, it's planned at your level, I'm sure. And once we know that, then we can plan for these things within that board. That board can meet, frequently. And I just do not see that this would be in any way negative. It's something we've never tried, and I know it's not going to be day one, it's going to be a success. You're going to have to give it some time. But I just look at it as the money that we're going to put toward it in a consolidated effort is worth trying, especially when our collections are going in opposite directions.
So I'm gonna make my comment.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that, the idea of bringing it all together, you guys are actually gonna be widening your advertising base. You're gonna have investment from all parties, because, you know, Maritime will want to see RCAD advertising be successful, and it's gonna be a more collective team. You're going to wanna see the success of others. You're gonna promote, one entity's event for them to hopefully do the same for you and vice versa. I think it does kind of make the groups more cohesive.
And so just kind of go off that, I mean, just kind of the history of hot funds, since I've been on council, we've always said, you guys have to start working together to get your advertising dollars to work better for y'all. And I don't see that happening in the last couple of years that we've actually been asking. Always the same, yes, you're the specialized thing, but we're always seeing the same thing over and over again, even people that are coming into town. So that's where I come with, I can see plan one being better, so we're gonna be doing something outside the box, and we're actually gonna work together, just as you said, working together, holding each other accountable, making it all work. This is Rockport, you know, you wanna go to all these damn things, and everyone's sharing this, doing that, and whatever you guys do. I just think that really helps in the long run, to really hold your dollar to the most, and make sure that it's getting out there as well, so can encourage people to what they're supposed to be doing. And on Jatin's comment too, it also holds, it does hold you guys accountable for your own dollars that you're spending and getting out there and doing what you have to do in your own company. Hot funds is there to help, but we don't have to, there's always extra that we can always do to do better. So I think that's always an important part of it as well.
I'll also give you an opportunity to come up with new ideas for inclusion and promotion, sports events, and how we can get the groups we have now to start participating in hot funds, especially with the ordinance we have to include sports within it. So the board can do more than just the direct advertising. You can think long-term on how to grow this.
Yeah. Anything else? August 6th.
August 6th, ask questions in the meantime. If you guys want to get together again with me, we can pick around. Would y'all like to do that, or? Yeah?
I would.
Okay. Before August 6th, don't let me forget, Kimberly, and we'll try to work around. I can't work around everybody's schedule, but we'll do the best we can, okay? Is evening or daytime better? Huh?
Open.
It doesn't matter to me.
We'll make it work.
Okay, all right, I'll do whatever y'all need, so.
Just a
Huh?
Casey has to sell it.
Oh,
And the amount on here would more than cover it.
okay, so what is the salary we proposed for?
So it says 125 on here for the ad person. Most of what I looked at, it depended on what level the person was you were bringing in, anywhere from 40 to 60,000 up to a little over 100,000 for salary plus benefits.
So I pegged it at 80.
Yeah,
And then added.
and that was about average, yeah.
You know, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it right, because it's gonna
Yeah.
have to be somebody that can manage this, oversee it all. I can't get an intern in here.
Yeah, right.
If we're gonna do it, we gotta do it right.
Will this person be well-versed in media buying? Because one of the things that we get from our media buyer is they're able to get us a discount because we're a nonprofit. And so that's something that can be given consideration. Sometimes we get on some of our placed media 10 to 15%. And then also the repetition of using certain, media outlets also gets you additional discounts.
So my thought is, you guys hire the person, the board, whatever we come up with. I don't need to be hiring that person because, that's not what I do.
That was gonna be my suggestion. I would like to have the board ahead.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do that. I would like you guys to do the interview. and make sure
I mean,
you guys
yes.
are comfortable who's gonna be doing it.
Yeah.
It would ultimately be my responsibility, but yeah, you guys would have to help write the job description, and you guys would have to help hire the person. Now, there's also gonna be a lapse before we can get a person and get some, so we gotta keep going what we're doing. Shelly will funnel into what we have to, we'll finish the contracts we have. I know you guys have things going, we gotta keep going until we find that person. Because we will hire the right person, or not, or none. You know, if we're gonna give something a try, we have to do it right. I don't mind being the first one to come up here and say this failed, but it's not gonna be because we just put someone in the seat that couldn't do the job.
Quick question, so what happens with the TDC?
So the TDC is a function of the chamber. In my mind, first of all, it's your choice. But I think you still have a TDC because you're gonna have a chamber rep on the board, and you're gonna need that information to funnel up through your person. You know, our council member is gonna funnel up our information. Whoever's, you know, the hotelier is not gonna be speaking for himself. So he's gonna have to meet with everybody and bring the information back. It's just like any other board in our city. They represent a constituency. I may be Pollyanna as all get out, y'all, and y'all can tell me if I am. It's just something different.
Okay, well, I think that we're all done there. I'll just take like a little 5-minute break so you guys can, if you guys, whoever needs to leave can leave, and we can stand up for lunch.
Is there plenty of burgers? Is there plenty of burgers?
Now, 124. We're gonna go back to our base budget and tax scenarios discussion.
Okay, so, I'm gonna turn it over to Robbie. Robbie speaks accounting, so just look at me because I understand it. But we talked about we have to do something new and different. So what Robbie is going to present is new and different. So don't panic. There's options. Bob's here to tell us if we're keeping within the realm of what we need to do. And if this doesn't suit y'all, we will find something else. Okay? They just care about the candy. Did anybody hear a word I said? Okay.
As long as they're happy, this is good.
Okay.
There's something about them we're gonna understand the problem.
Yeah, so Robbie's up here and I'm down here. So when y'all need to bring it down, just let me know. And I may jump in just for clarity. But
Please, absolutely, and please feel free to interject if you have questions as we go along or we have these discussions. That's the whole point of this. And yes, thank goodness our financial advisor, Bob's here. Thank you for coming, Bob. If I go too off course, don't be surprised if you see a Diet Coke fly through the air. I'll be dodging and weaving. But yeah, just keep me honest. This, what we're discussing is for just preliminary budget, just for discussion purposes. The goal in this was to try to balance the budget using tools outside or over and above that 3.5% cap that we have on the M&O side of our tax rate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We've been deficit spending since at least 2022. Again, I've just completed my first year. I've not had a chance to go back and look at a lot of things. So, but we have been deficit spending, deficit budgeting. We did not have a balanced budget last year, and we need to stop doing that. Not properly funding projects has put the city in a precarious and unsustainable position with declining reserves and dwindling resources. And it's hurting us on getting quality employees. Infrastructure, as we've been talking about, the need for infrastructure and the ability to grow and adapt. We're kind of like in this, we're kind of chained. We don't have like flexibility.
clarify, when he says we did not have a balanced budget, he means we pulled money from reserves to balance the budget. We did turn the balanced budget, but we took money out of our reserves to balance it.
Yeah, and in the budget, in the initial budget that we adopted, it was using reserves to balance.
They expected to do that when they adopted that budget. They knew they were going to have to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you see it in your balance sheet okay. Continue, please.
We need to complete the audit. I know Lorenzo is feverishly working on it. I'm not blaming it at all. It's just, again, we're trying to juggle. Again, it's having good staff. It's trying to get things done. We're struggling, but we're hoping to get that in August, God willing.
So remember also last year, which was my first year, well, 2022 was my first year, we did not have a clean audit, or a clean audit, I guess, and we were behind and we were, again, not budgeting appropriately. So we're cleaning out the Easter eggs with each audit. We get new and clean those up, so anyways.
Yes. Reserves, recommendation for policy is 180 days. At our 2022 audit, whenever it was presented, we were talking about it, we're at 111 days. And again, we expect our reserves for 2023 to be even less. We lost like almost $1 million, I believe, between 2021 and 2022.
Now that was the country club drainage project. You want me to put it on?
No, I think it's.
No, that was a planned spend, that $1 million. We didn't just lose it. I wanted to be clear, we didn't lose $1 million. We planned it and we spent it on the country club drainage project. Anyway, sorry.
It's all their fault.
Again,
It's all their fault.
we're looking at doing cost of living adjustment to attract or retain quality employees. Turnover, we talked about the turnover and how high it's been. We've lost a lot of our knowledge base. So everything that we're trying to do, we're having to start from scratch. There's nobody to go, hey, what did we do last year, or how did we do this before? It's like, okay, what do we do now? We need to restart the vehicle and equipment sinking fund. And we really need to fund that on the INS side of the tax rate, not on the maintenance and operations side. We'll talk a little bit about that more as well. We need to fix the current business model, our traditional business model for cities was really shot. That Senate Bill 2 back in 2019, it destroyed it. When you used to be able to go up to 8% increase on your M&O side, and then they put a cap on it 3.5%. It's not going to work. It doesn't even keep up with inflation. It's inflexible. It was a capricious decision, and we're paying for it. Really, what it's done is it's pushed for cities where you used to be able to cover things with a tax increase and cover for everyone, kind of like what we were talking about earlier in our executive session. We're now having to look at user fees. Cities need to rely more on user fees to fund things. The pool fees, our pool is sucking about $500,000 out of our M&O monies a year. They're too low. And we talked about utility fees earlier, and that needs to change. So what we need to do is, again, move the B&E over to the INS side, and we need to increase, support the utility rates and fees that, again, we were talking about earlier. Not doing so, if we don't go up on these fees, we're going to need to start looking at cutting positions. I mean, that's just, we need to do something different, just as Vanessa said. What we've been doing is not working. We need to do something different.
To clarify, it's either positions or services equal to the dollar amount. Positions are the easiest thing to quantify.
Yes, corporations always start with playoffs. It's
anyway.
Yes. General revenue funding tool, we talked about this at the strategic meeting back in April, I believe it was. Property taxes, sales taxes, and transfers in, utility transfers in. Okay, property tax. It's our largest revenue source. We talked about the M&O. The M&O piece of your tax rate, your maintenance operations piece, again, that's limited to voter approved rate of 3.5% per year, unless you can go higher, but it can also be repealed, I guess, or challenged. The M&O side should only really be for maintenance and operations. What we've been doing, like we were talking about with the Rockport Country Club, we've been using our M&O monies, or the M&O side, for projects. We've been using the M&O side for vehicle and equipment replacements. We're using short-term monies for assets that have long-term lives, or projects that have long-term lives. Your interest in sinking side is what should be for your projects, so that you're matching up your debt. You issue debt, say 25 years, 30 years, to an asset life, say a project that has 30 years. You want to try to match that up, not be using up all of your M&O side. It's like going to HEB. It's like taking your grocery money and going and buying a car, and then going home, and it's like, well, I have nothing to eat, but I got this car that's gonna last for 7 or 10 years. So you want to better match that up. But what we've been doing is using up our M&O monies for projects, and instead of doing COLAs or other things or maintenance items around the city, we've been using them for projects, and so that's why we're in this squeeze. The M&O side is capped 3.5%. The INS side is not capped. That's the part we're going to be focusing on today. It's up to council in terms of how high you want to go. And we're talking about M&O at 3.5%, and how it doesn't even cover the inflation. Here's CPI. That red line is the 3.5%, say, per year, and you can see starting in 2021, and I mean we've just been sucking in. We've been going backwards big time, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. That's why also the Fed keeps the rate's so high. I mean, it doesn't look like it's gonna pay anytime soon. So, property tax. Bob, yeah, at the strategic meeting, talked about some possible ways that we could fix this. And I also wanted to mention, Anna, she says that now Texas now allows pro rata homestead exemptions. And so what that does is it allows people to file for a homestead exemption, but receive refunds for as far as 2 years back. So what it's doing is you can't rely on, yeah, you might set your tax rate, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the revenues. Just people can be filing for refunds, so that's gutting you along the way.
Robbie, the M&O cap at 3.5% that was apparently implemented and sounds pretty restrictive and causing us a lot of problems. Is there any effort on the political side to get some relief for us? Because since it doesn't, I mean, not every municipality's got to be having these same meetings going, oh my gosh, 3.5, is there any works in place to eventually get us some relief from that, even a 1% or something? They're not going to do away with it, but is there anything getting done there? Or are we stuck with that for a while?
As far as I know, no.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't even think TML has been putting it on their legislative agenda.
because it would be TML.
Yeah. So.
I would think it would be TML. So as far as I know, no.
Okay.
And yes, every city is facing the same problem.
When it talked about our freeze adjusted values are up about 5% from last year. That's the lowest growth rate since 2021. So things are slowing down on the property tax side from a growth standpoint. New taxable new values coming online. Those were down 10 million from last year, or 16%. Lowest growth rate, again, things are slowing down. Number of properties being added to the rolls, relatively flat. Freeze adjusted values, this is just an example kind of showing is the values, as your values go down, your tax rate has to go up. As values go up, then the tax rate can come down. Since we're slowing down, that would show that the tax rate going higher. And we do not have a tax increment available for 2024. We had one last year that we took, but we don't have one. I checked with Anna and she said no. So the M&O, here's kind of what we're looking at. M&O, 3.5%, that's at the top. The INS rate, I know it's going up 6%. What the INS rate includes, you're saying, well, not 6%, 6 pennies. What that's doing is moving over almost all of the debt from the utility side, and putting it over on the INS piece. It's taking the B&E and putting the B&E as part of CIP instead of out of M&O, out of the maintenance and operations. The CIP projects, including completion of the city hall, for additional funding, that's in the CIP. And then what this is doing is also, what it's trying to do is to balance the budget and leave us enough room for a COLA and for a police officer. Because I know one, but I mean,
So stop right there, please.
Okay.
So I heard everything he told you, and I hope y'all understood it. I do a little bit. But if we do M&O 3.5%, which is as much as we can take on M&O, it gives us this $405,000 down here at the bottom. That would be our total budget increase. Our base budget, we only increased our budget 2%, so less than inflation. That $405,000 does not cover that percentage of our base budget. So on the INS, the scenario he's proposing is to go up 6 cents, which would give that 1.7 million. Now, there's options, but that's what we need to fully fund everything as we are today. Atacola, Atacon, okay? Next page.
Because you're spending it already. We've been spending it for years prior, because we've been deficit spending. So we're already spending it, we just haven't been funding it.
Is that the voter approval rate though? Is that has to go vote, or is that the budget?
So our understanding is the M&O is what works on the voter approval rate.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this should not require, if we stay at 3.5 and come up with a 2.2 there to get your budget, that we have, that's just normal, we can proceed with that.
So what you would be doing is going from 0.36 to 0.42.
I'm sitting too far back to see the.
Okay. Sure. In this scenario, don't freak out yet. This is just, this is what we need to function, not in the deficit. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And again, you have the ability for this bottom number, for that INS. That's on y'all. There's not a cap on it. So what does this do? What does this mean for the average taxable home? What about the penny, the cost per penny? If you go up on that INS side, it's $34 for each penny. And so since that previous scenario showed going up 6 cents, that would be an increase of $200 on a homestead, on an average taxable homestead.
Per year.
Per year, yes.
So then if you're looking at that, if you go down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 pennies on the INS, that's the result, okay? So we're saying the 6 is what we need, but here's these other options. So if we go up 1 penny, like you said, it's $34 on the average home per year.
Yes.
Okay? Is everybody following where we are right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Robbie, again, for the new guy here, what have we done in the last couple of years? We're proposing a potential, the 6 pennies here, average house, $200 increase in a year. What happened last year? What happened the year before?
So the interim city manager, when he got here, I think he let you all know very clearly that you have not been taking your 3.5% and you're gonna have to do that.
On the M&O side.
On the M&O, but nothing on the INS. And so that year, which was my first year, I started in August, he already had the budget done. They took the 3.5%, but they also had 3 increments. That you can look back 3 years and save up a little bit. So he took all the increment and the 3.5%. Last year, we gained another increment, and we took 3.5% and 1 increment. So we've only stayed within that 3.5% allowable. We've not done anything, we've not separated out the INS.
All right, so we basically haven't done anything like this in a while.
That's why I'm saying this is new.
We've never done this.
Yeah. Well, it's new, but.
So also, earlier today in executive session, I mentioned our debt capacity is low because our INS tax rate is low. Is that a true statement, Bob?
Well, your debt capacity is low as if you measure it against your existing INS tax rate and the growth rate of your taxable assessed valuation.
Okay, there you go. That was
As we
too
discussed in
complicated.
April, to the extent that the elected body is prepared to raise the INS tax rate, you can generate additional capital capacity.
There you go.
So if we do, let's just say we went with this 6 pennies right here, that would give us, raise the ability to borrow a little more money to do the capital improvements we know are coming.
So if you go, he may have a thing on this, but I'll jump ahead. If you go with the 6 pennies, we are then gonna ask you to take out $4.1 million in debt to cover the B&E,
B&E, the CIP, the.
B&E, CIP, yes, everything. Because we also, we've not done our B&E since I've been here, and we've not done work the CIP since I've been here. Okay.
This is just covering the function.
This is the, 6 pennies is the basic function of the government. It pulls in the things that we have not done for 2 years that we've needed to. it gives a COLA, which we did not give last year, and it adds, at least one car, if we get the grant. If we get the grant for 3, we don't have the money for 3. We have the money for 1. Okay,
At this time.
sorry, keep going.
And what Bob was talking about, like the valuation, you can see that how small, as a percentage of the home value, how small that tax amount is. I mean, as a percentage of value, we've got the value here. It's just, do we have the political will to raise the rates? That's what this really comes down to. Because you've got it, the value's here, it's just. So, area property taxes by category. Just kind of wanted to show M&O, our INS rate, excuse me, M&O versus our INS rate, you can see kind of how it compares, that's the red line, how it compares to the surrounding towns. And then if we were to go up the 6 pennies, you can see with the green line, how we would compare, this is just for INS really, how we would compare to the other cities as well. And so we're within that range. We would not be out of line on that. Let's see. The total tax rate right now, we're at like basically 36 cents. And if we were to go to the 42, you can see where that would be. We are the lowest in the area. Again, we have a very low tax rate. We've got values here, but we have a very low tax rate relatively speaking. If we were to go with that 6 pennies, that would show where we would be and how we'd be in line with some of the other cities. You can see that
The green line
yes, the green lines. Thank you.
would be the rates. The red is up and down is where we are.
And you can see that our total tax rate, INS and M&O, is, I mean, it's for all the cities in there, their M&O alone is higher than our total tax rate.
Where's the combined tax rate, Robbie? Can you point to it on?
It's these two together, or
Yeah, I thought you were comparing it. I thought there might be a combined column there somewhere.
Oh no, I don't. Yeah, I'm sorry, but we're 36 cents, and you can see just the M&O here is 40 cents, 45.
So we're still well below.
We're well below, very well below.
Even if we go up the 6 cents, that's where the green line
That's where the
would be
green
up
line,
the 6
if we were to do that.
comparatively to the other cities. Okay, no, I just want to make sure it makes sense.
So now, the second largest source of revenue, sales tax. This we have an outside firm who does this for us and tracks it and gives us some feedback. McLean, his name is McLean. Anyway, it's showing the rolling 12-month average and how it kind of rolled over here and it's been flat, kind of declining. So we're not going to, kind of like hotel motel taxes, we're not going to get anything out of that. So our first revenue sources has been flat certainly from an M&O standpoint. Valuations are flattening out. Sales tax is flat. So this brings us to operating transfers in. These are paid by the utility fund to reimburse the general fund for supporting the utility fund. This needs to go up. You can tell it's been flat. This needs to be higher, probably based on utility revenues versus reimbursing costs is what we've been in the past. The reserves, we're talking about general fund. Here are our expenditures. Where the 180 days worth, if you wanted to, try to be there. Our general fund balance has been well below it. We've never touched it, and it even dropped again. Again, we had that almost $1 million general fund hit in 2022.
When did we implement that 180 though? It was after 17, right? Or before 17? Before the hurricane? That they went up and increased it to 180.
The 180 days?
Okay.
That's been that way since, I want to say early 2000s. because it was before Kevin Peru started.
Okay.
So we're recommending is move the debt service from utilities to the INS side. Again, fund the B&E on the INS side, and then I said to move computer replacement, but basically the computer replacement is already in the CIP. Basically, you're loading up the CIP and you're financing the CIP with debt instead of using operating funds. The restructuring, I know there was discussion in April about restructuring the 2022 tax notes. After discussions with Bob, he said that it does not look feasible at this time. The appetite, the state appetite for refinancing tax notes, 7-year tax notes, is not good at this time. They don't want to refinance them, especially I think given the valuations that we have here. They would rather us go up on our tax rate versus refinancing those, which means basically that we're looking at amortizing our city hall debt over a 7-year period for a 50-year asset, which is upside down. Again, that's using your HEB money to buy a car. B&E.
We're still eating.
Vanessa always moves through comments. We're a mess. At B&E, you're looking at over $700,000, and that's for year one. Part of that is to catch up. You can see out here, it smooths back out a little bit into the 500 range. We're trying to play catch up again because we haven't been doing this, so we've got to do that. Financial effects of each penny decrease. Walk through these pretty quick. Again, we're talking about it at that 6 cent increase. We should be able to balance the general fund and the utility fund for the first time, I don't know since when. Do this, take out new debt to fund the CIP vehicle replacement, and reserve funds for hopefully a 5% COLA. That's at this time, and one police officer. A penny less. That would eliminate any new borrowings. Again, we have that tax note that we can't restructure, and so we don't have any room. So that would wipe out our CIP. Basically, and if we did the B&E, we would have to, if we continue with the B&E, that would come over and suck up everything out of the general fund, and our budget would be done. We wouldn't have any money for police or COLA. But if we didn't fund the B&E, they would allow for a 5% COLA and one police officer. 2 pennies, it would leave us basically with a 3% COLA and one police officer. Again, no CIP. 3 pennies, it would leave probably a little bit for about 3% COLA and one police officer. Again, no CIP, so no projects. Oh, the heck.
You skip 4.
Did I skip? I thought I pushed it again. 4 pennies. Use money for about a 1% COLA. No officers. 5%. Basically, we're just using up our reserves again. And 6 pennies basically puts at a deficit coming out of the gates. So collectively between the utility fund and general fund, we're like negative like $1 million. And we really need to get that fixed. Okay, just we were talking about we have about 145 FTEs. I know our primary goals were COLA and the B&E sinking fund. If we need to look at staffing levels, we'd have to evaluate. I mean, if we don't get any movement, we need to start cutting staff. This version is going to change. We already have we have some updated insurance numbers. We get them on daily, some updated retirement numbers. We get those periodically. Just as they're coming in, everything is going up. In our auto, our auto liability went up 10%, just right off the bat, and that's not even getting into retirement or anything else. And I know that we get criticized for changing numbers and changing our mind from the versions, but that's just part of the budget process. It's iterative. It's iterative changing, and as you get information, you make your updates.
Now, our numbers change up until the very last minute that we get our certified tax roll.
Yes.
So these numbers are gonna change within dollars, hundreds of dollars, whatever, so the next version will be different.
Any questions or?
Is the 6 cents, is that the maximum for a voter initiative, before it goes to the voter?
There's not a cap on that debt side.
As far as we know, there's no INS cap, right?
You could go up 10 cents. If y'all wanted to go crazy with CIP projects, you could potentially do that.
Crazy,
But-
that's not a good.
Hold on, additionally, we did cut the CIP down, we have our year one.
Yes.
We picked, I think, 4 projects that we could do, our forest high priority, and put it in with that 6 cents. So yes, if you wanted to do the whole CIP, I don't think we have the debt capacity.
Well, one of the most interesting charts that Robbie put up, before I get to that, let me say this first. I think Robbie's done a tremendous job of making a very complicated and critical situation clearly understood. You are in a critical situation, so I want to commend Robbie for a great job. He did lay out very clearly and succinctly what your options are, and I really like the last part of his presentation that talked about, well, we only go 1 penny, we go 2 pennies, we go 3 pennies. It highlights the critical situation that you're in. If you want some good news, there are people that are worse off than you. And I say that because this 3.5% new revenue limitation was drafted in a way that applies to schools, counties, and cities altogether. It really hasn't been that big of an impact on Texas school districts because of adjustments that the TEA, Texas Education Agency, has made on per pupil funding. So it hasn't been as big a deal for school districts. It's killing the counties. It is killing the counties. And the reason it's killing the counties is the county doesn't have the diversification of revenues that you guys have got. They don't get sales tax. They get some, but only outside the incorporated cities. So their sales tax revenues are dramatically lower than they are in most cities. And of course, they don't have utility system revenues. So if there's any consolation to you, counties are worse off than you guys are.
It does not make us feel better.
It does not make you feel better, I know. I and people in my industry have been actively advising schools, cities, and counties since this legislation was passed 2 legislative sessions ago, max out that 3.5% every single year. And I had people, particularly counties, who I was predicting, I think accurately, were going to get brought into this. They said, well, we don't need it this year. I know you don't need it this year, but you're going to need it in 28 and 29. It's not going to be there if you don't take it down. And the chart that Robbie put up there, I love that. It demonstrates 2 things. Number one, where you are in your peer group. So you've got plenty of capacity if you've got the political will and when I say political will, I don't mean just the city council, I mean the community as a whole in terms of voting debt. You've got plenty of room to still be modest tax rates relative to your peer group. But what it also demonstrates is that if you look at the city of Central, who's out there with a 70 cent, 69 cent M&O tax rate, them taking 3.5% gets them 3 times more money than you taking 3.5%, simply because their existing M&O rate is 3 times larger than yours. And this is precisely why we were advising cities and counties in particular, take that 3%, build your fund balances, even if you don't need it, take it 4 years ago, because you need that base number as high as you can get it when you get to that critical mass. So that's an important chart to understand, and again, in 2 ways. You're starting off way behind the curve, because the number that you get 3.5% off of is so much lower than the number that your neighbors get 3.5% off of. And then also is the debt capacity. Debt capacity, and I explained this in our April presentation, can be defined in a dozen different ways. historically, the way that we define it, and this has been true in Aransas County, is with the tax-based growth that you have and the declination, the reducing of debt service payments that you have, how much debt can you issue within the context of your existing tax rate? Never mind going up with your existing tax rate. And as I demonstrated in April, Rockport's got $37 million worth of debt service capacity. The problem is you can't get to it until your short-term notes for the city hall pay off. So we're talking about 2029 before you can actually access that capacity without having a negative impact on your tax rate. Now, what Robbie is proposing is a 6-cent increase in your INS tax rate to fund the B&E, as you talked about, as well as giving yourself some numbers, some room for the COLA and the police officer and some desperately needed other capital improvement projects. You can do that because, as again Robbie accurately pointed out, the INS tax rate is not capped the way that the M&O tax rate is. So under other circumstances, a 6-cent increase against that 14-cent existing rate, percentage-wise, it's going to look big to your taxpayers. Your director of finance here showing us it's $205 is the average value in this home. So people are going to notice this, but within the law, you have the ability to do that. The reason that I think that increasing the INS tax rate, at least to the extent that we're talking about covering 100% of your existing debt service, is a good idea given the critical situation that you're in, is that it allows those utility system revenues to stay in the fund and be available for transfers into the general fund. So that is the single strongest source of revenues that you have to deal with the 3.5% cap on your M&O side. So that absolutely needs to be done. Robbie can probably tell us, I can't, just the debt service transfers alone, how much of that 6 cents is that?
The debt service transfers alone. Put me on the spot on that one.
Probably about 3 cents would be my guess.
Probably, I think it was around that.
So I think that you absolutely need to do that, but it's also true. One of the first 2 or 3 slides he showed talked about the need to maximize user fees. He talked about the fact that your city pool is draining $500,000 a year out of your general fund. We need to have a similar analysis of your peer cities. What are they paying for garbage pickup? What are they paying for water and sewer rates? We need to be raising our water and sewer rates to augment the viability of this. Yes, ma'am.
We have a professional study that gives us what we need for water and sewer, and it also analyzes all of our fees, and it recoups the cost of service. So this includes adopting that plan as well.
Oh, that's important to know. So these numbers already assume that the increased water and sewer rates are going to be in place.
Nope.
I misunderstood you.
It assumes that the professionally analyzed water and sewer rates are going to be implemented and the user fees are going to be implemented. They are not all increased.
Okay. So those are important. Another key point that Robbie made that is 1,000% accurate is that because of some, let's just call it the local political environment, we have been forced, the county, or the city rather, was forced to finance long-term useful life items, mainly the city hall, and some other items, and do it funded over a 7-year note. Now, given the tremendous tax base that Rockport has, and the fact that your debt was relatively modest, still is, but certainly even more so before they did the City Hall project, you're able to do that, still have a pretty darn good tax rate compared to your peer cities. But it does impact the ability to finance long-term useful lives appropriately. Funding the B&E on a 7-year tax note is certainly going to address a critical problem the city of Rockport has in terms of those needs, and I certainly don't want to understate that. But that short period of time is also going to have the same negative impact on your longer-term debt capacity as the city hall financing had, simply because we've increased the rate over a short period of time. It is a viable thing to do. You need the V&E. It's not up to me, it's up to you elected officials to decide how you're going to prioritize COLAs, police officers, as well as vehicles and equipment and so forth. So that's why you guys got kind of elected. But it is going to, the more debt you have on a 7-year note basis, the more problems you're going to have. Now, I'll say this. They talked about $4.1 million. Not all of that is short-term useful life stuff. Some of it is longer than that. You've got the local political situation. Are we going to be able to vote bonds, or are we going to be able to issue certificates of obligation and match up the debt to the useful life of those projects? Not all of that $4.1 million is short useful life. A lot of it is probably half of it. When you look at the computers and the V&E,
Yeah, computers.
30%.
It's small, yeah.
So, ideally, we would be able to issue certificates of obligation and work around that 7-year glitch. But the bottom line is that this city has got great tax base. It's got great bond ratings, although frankly, those are being put in jeopardy by the fact that our general fund balances are falling and we're running out of limitations here in terms of the ability to raise additional revenues. So your bond ratings are in jeopardy, but you've got a great tax base, you've got an incredible tax rate. Now, I've been around to know, it's funny when one of his earlier charts was talking about quality employees and employees retention. I've been working with the city of Rockport since 1987. There's probably very few people that have the long-term institutional knowledge of what's going on here and what's worked and what hasn't worked than I've had. And I remember very well, probably nobody in this room, I'm looking around. Hey, Mike knows what I'm fixing to say. There's an old banker here who's long since passed away. His name is Jimmy Sorensen. Do you remember Jimmy Sorensen? Yeah. He owned what was at the time First National Bank of Rockport. He sold it to Victoria B&T, and now it's Wells Fargo. But Mr. Sorensen was a crusty old guy. Did anybody else besides Mike even know Mr. Sorensen? Okay, well, I should figure Mr. Brundrett would know. Certainly his dad knew Mr. Sorensen. Well, Mr. Sorensen and I were sitting down one day talking about taxes in Rockport. And this would have been the late 80s, mid 90s, somewhere in that time frame. And I said, Mr. Sorensen, you guys have got among the lowest city tax rates in the state, among the lowest county tax rates in the state, and among the lowest 2/3 school district taxes in the state. 85% of the state of Texas would kill to have as low tax rates as the taxpayers in Rockport have. And he says, Bob, I don't care what everybody else is paying. I care what I'm paying. And that's why we've had this tax rate here, because you guys have, in this community have never compared yourself against your peers. You compare yourself against yourself, and you end up with a very tight tax rate. I'm a property owner here. I've been a property owner since 1984, so I pay taxes too. I appreciate the low tax rate. But to get to the question the gentleman was asking about capacity, the biggest single factor, particularly given the very strong taxable assessed valuation this community has, the single biggest factor in your capacity is how much is the community, not just the elected officials, but how much is the community willing to tax themselves. So I think you've got, again, I'm beginning to be redundant here, you've got the opportunity to have dramatic capacity within your existing tax rate, but can't get your arms around it until about 2029 when your existing short-term city hall debt pays off. Other than that, I think Robbie did a great job. I'm happy to answer any questions I can help you with. Yes, sir.
I got a question, depends on who wants to take it. I want to make sure I understand. If we were to go with the 6 cents that you proposed here, it looks like it will get us the one officer and some of the things that kind of gets us in a okay position, not great or good, but an okay position. And if I'm understanding right, we, especially on the INS side, the last few years, we haven't done a lot there. So is it true to say that when we try to present this six cents, that we'll have to explain to the folks here in town that, you know, some of that could have been done the last few years? And my final piece of the question is, what are we gonna have to do next year? If we were to approve this 6 cents and save the day and get you what you need right now, and maybe some of that could have been done the last years, that's probably a minor point. Are we gonna hit them with 10 cents next year, or where will this take us? When should we have to readdress that? Do we have any forecast? If we can get this passed at 6%, again, that's a big if right now. Can you tell me where are we going to be for next year? Is it going to be another big smack in the jaw to them?
That's a good point.
I would need to look and see what our projected revenues are going to be on the utility side. Sure, we were talking about this morning. I need to see what that's going to be shaping up to be, and that's going to be a big determinant. Like Bob was saying, you got that three-legged stool. I mean, 2 of them are basically flat, so you only got to have one area to be pulling from right now.
We know we're limited on 3.5, so that's not going to change for next year. But
let me add to what he's saying to maybe give the citizens a little more comfort. We're talking about 6 cents here, and he hasn't done the math, but he and I have a sense it's about half of that is transferring debt service that's currently being paid from the utility system to the INS side. If we're paying 100% of that debt service out of the INS side now, we can't go up on the INS side anymore as it pertains to the existing debt. So unless there's another issuance of debt, we're not going to be able to come back next year and say, without voter approval or without what we call passive approval, you're not going to be able to raise arbitrarily that INS tax rates another 10 cents because you don't have the debt service that's currently outstanding, being currently paid from the utility revenue system that you can transfer. You're transferring it all now. You can't do that again because there's no more debt service to transfer.
Okay, so preliminarily, we might be able to say this. Okay, you know, this is where we are, folks. You know, we're looking at a 6%. What do y'all think? And you know that this should be where we'll be for another year or two after that, or something like that.
Well, we'll take the 3.5%.
Yeah.
But we won't take an additional INS increment. We can't justify an additional INS increment. We have to take the 3.5%.
We got to do that anyway. Yeah, the 3.5 M&O is going to have to happen, but that doesn't sound too bad.
Well, let me clarify something about this 3.5%, and I don't think it's been mentioned here today. It's important. 3.5% is what you're limited to unless you get a voter approval tax rate. You can go up 10% right now on your general fund on your M&O fund, if you wanted to. But if you do that, you're going to automatically trigger an election that your citizens have to validate that decision. So if the citizens get educated to the critical nature of our situation here, you might be able, as an elected body, to say, we need to go up more than 3.5% on the M&O side. We need to go up 7%. And everybody, personally, I think now is a better time to do it than say next year. You know why? Because everybody's feeling that 9.1% inflation rate that he put on the chart. The Federal Reserve is slated to drop interest rates. We won't know what's going to happen. Lots of stuff going on, political, national political environment. But right now, the Treasury markets are pricing in about an 80% chance that the Federal Reserve is going to lower the overnight Fed funds rate in September by at least a quarter. Some is thinking 50 cents. So there'll either be a quarter in September and a quarter in December, or maybe the whole 50 cents in September. I don't know that's what's going to happen, but I'll just tell you that the Treasury market is predicting that. So now, if they do that, and you come to your budget period next year, and our inflation for the last 2 years in a row has been 3.5%, 3%, maybe hopefully as low as 2.5% next summer. That 9.1% inflation is far enough in the background that, you know, people may not be as excited about, you know, correlating the critical problem that Rockport has now with the 9% inflation rate. But that's a great chart that he showed. You can't have 9%, 9.1% inflation rate and hold your new revenues at 3.5% and retain employees, hire police officers, pay the streets. Can't do it. Inflation doesn't work that way.
So just to go back a little bit, last year, you know, again, it's my first year. Robbie came in August and was expected to make a budget. We made a conscious decision to balance with the 3.5%, using reserves, not fund the CIP, not fund the B&E, and not give COLAs. We gave a one-time payment. This year we had to get creative. We can do that again, but we're putting ourselves further in the hole. So in Robbie's quest to move me to his side on this issue, he has succeeded. And I think this is probably the most creative and least painful for us to get back where we need to be.
Listen, can I make a comment?
Maybe, depends.
Well, I think it should be warranted, because I want to take it one step below just the tax rate and what it does to staff, department budgets. I think y'all been, of this council and, you know, in the last 20 years, you've been seeing the same budget for the last 20 years. I can tell you that. It's only been fluctuating on certain things like the $1 million. That sticks out to people because they've never seen it before. That was a stipend to compensate 10 to 12 years of $125,000 drainage budget, which is not a drainage budget if you look at any community. So all the problems were stacking up behind it, and we're still seeing this. And at some point, you know, we have people working here now that are spending the money because all that maintenance is catching up. That maintenance is just gonna go up. And we're gonna be to a point where we're not gonna be either conservative with our budget, bringing it to council, or you're just gonna see us spend it on that side because we have to, because it's critical infrastructure. If I can't pump water to our citizens, are we gonna get the green light to pay for these pumps and the upgrades that are $200,000 to $300,000? Like, these things have to be done, sewer plants and distribution sites. And so I've seen it happen. I've operated the same budget in a department, at the street and drainage department. Now I'm seeing it in the water, sewer and gas. And we are upgrading stuff that my uncles were in charge of that haven't touched them in their careers. So I think it's time for a change to maybe fund some of this stuff, because we're catching up to those people that, you know, drop that to us.
We've kicked the can as far as it.
The can's down the road and it's fixing to fall off. And we're doing a great job, but we're spending money that's dipping into reserves. And I think let's replenish it, and I think it'll start tapering off, because as we're doing it, you know, we're having to shift some of this money around to, you know, all these projects came in at once because they were all put in it. And it's just, if we can spread them out, you know, CIP, that can be done. But the critical maintenance stuff needs to be addressed, and it needs to be funded. If it doesn't get done, that's why you haven't seen it fall off, because nobody was doing the work. The money wasn't there. So I just wanted to add that to that.
Yes, yeah, because you could remedy your maintenance problem by buying new equipment, which would go on your INS side as well. So the INS, and then that reduces the amount of the general spend out of your M&O side.
Yeah, new equipment's not gonna need to be worked on as anywhere near the
Right.
So that covers the rest of our agenda, I think. This is just information, remember. We're gonna come back on the 6th, and I need you guys to really dive into what we're asking of you, what you wanna come back and think you wanna do. Ask questions between now and the 6th so we can have scenarios and information prepared for you, because we're in August. And we gotta adopt this budget in September. So actually, we gotta have a hearing in next month. I gotta get you a budget letter. So we need those two directions on the hot taxes and the property taxes.
Robbie, you did 0 to 6 cents, projections, I guess, we're running that and giving us the 6 cents, doesn't really cover many of the asks that were presented to in the workshop. It covers.
That only covers, the only ask
Is one officer.
is gonna be the officer.
Yes, so the other supplemental requests don't even get touched.
No, this starts the V&E, which we have been neglecting. It gives a COLA, and the only ask it gives is an officer. Oh, I'm sorry. It also kickstarts our computer replacement program.
Can
Just
you
like
do
the
me an 8 and a 10 or something? I mean, I know that's going to be close.
So as Bob was saying, we probably can't go to an 8 or a 10 because we can't justify it on the debt side, correct?
Well, you can't do it on the INS side, without voter approval of new debt. But you can do it if you're willing to do it on the M&O side with a voter approved tax rate.
No, we don't want to go.
Wait.
Am I mistaken?
I think you said that backwards. Well,
Yeah.
no, he's right. He's saying if you wanna go over this 6 cents,
Right.
you need to put it on the M&O and go to the voters, because we don't have the capacity
Okay.
on the INS
To
to go
transfer
more
more
than the
than-
6.
Gotcha, okay, so 6 is basically our cap without.
We couldn't go to
Plus,
7.
let me add one other little technical thing here that you need to know. That 6 cents includes the assumption of issuing $4.1 million.
4.1 million.
And we would have to start almost yesterday.
Yeah.
If we're gonna issue that in tax notes, we can do that. That debt has to be outstanding at the time you adopt the tax rate, or we can't legally adopt the 6% tax rate increase. We cannot levy a tax in anticipation of a debt. The debt has to be outstanding at the time that we levy that tax. So if we don't get the tax notes issued before you adopt your tax rate, you're gonna be limited to that 3 cents.
Well, we would have to chew into our reserves on our debt service fund.
Well, okay,
Well, we could do
that.
Well, we could do that, or we could do a tax anticipation, you know, there's a couple skins that we can play with, but fundamentally, the law says you cannot levy a tax rate in anticipation of the issuance of debt. The debt has to actually be issued at the time you levy the tax rate.
so 6 cents and 5 cents both assume, an assumption of debt. 4 cents does not include any assumption of debt.
Okay.
Can you put up what 4 cents does for us?
It eliminates the CIP, that's what.
Okay.
Yeah, after the first penny, it wipes out the CIP. What was that?
Very good.
You wanted 4 pennies left?
Four total,
Go to 2 pennies.
Nope.
I go 3, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
right there. So that would give us no CIP, 3% COLA. We still get V&E out of that?
No.
Out of 4 cents?
We're not, we can't fund COLA and police officer out of INS.
No.
No.
But it frees up the money when we move.
Transfers from the.
Frees up into the M&O.
Can we get the tax certificates done by September to allow us to adopt this?
We can get tax, no, not get certificates.
Okay, well, whatever we gotta get, I don't know the differences at this point. Can we get this done, or otherwise we're just stuck with this, and this is.
We can get a tax note, and start immediately.
This is information. Brad wants 10.
I know.
I didn't say I want to
It's on
see it.
record.
I said I want to see it because we're not, with the 6 cents, we're still trying to.
We're trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And there's no way, Robbie, we could go to 7, even 7?
No, if you.
I don't wanna go to the election and all the cost and aggravation of that.
No, if you bolster your CIP.
Yeah,
then-
if you issue
yeah,
more than
you can go up to 8 cents.
we issue 5 million, sure, we could go to 7.
It depends on what your
How much
financing
you have to
is.
go to the
We just
voters.
add to your CIP.
No.
No?
Yeah.
So yes, you can go higher, you can
But
get
we
the
have to issue
replacement
more
pumps
debt.
that Ryan's talking about, you can get
I'll take a look.
improvements that are needed, yes, you can do that.
Yeah, so if you wanna go to 10, you could take your CIP and fund the whole year one, which would probably put you at 10 or 12 or whatever. We just picked out this minimal
Yeah.
part.
Now, I wanna say this, kinda
Right.
would ask you to, not do more than you need.
Exactly.
Because again, we're talking about a 7-year financing that's gonna impact your longer term
Certainly.
capacity. So get what's critical.
Right.
But let's don't get more than we have to get, because it's gonna have a deleterious impact on your tax rate and future debt capacity, just how short that financing is gonna happen.
But as some of the capacity is open, in by 29.
Yes,
29.
yes.
As some
We're
of
gonna have a big
that
kick
falls
at
off.
29.
Yeah.
At the existing rate, if the INS was kept constant.
Yeah, but we're not gonna keep it constant, we're raising it, and if we issue in 2024, first debt payment in 2025, now we've got part of that tax rate flowing over to 2032, right? So we're still gonna have some debt capacity here, probably 28, 30 million, but the more short-term debt we issue, the longer it's gonna be before we can access that those.
Access the
35 million, 37 million.
So, would you guys,
Yes.
is it your pleasure that you give us direction to head down this path? Would you like for us to stay on the 3.5% path? Where do you want us to go between now and the 6th?
My feeling is, of course, I'll talk to some constituents and whatnot, but the 3.5% is we have to. I feel like we have to grab that.
No, that's given, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's good, you gotta do it.
You've got to. And then the 6 cents.
Right.
I don't want to say it's a political suicide, but as Ryan stated, the can's been kicked, and the 6 cents doesn't even get us deep into any of the supplementals.
What's the city right up the road that went broke?
Yeah, we don't, no, I know, but we're headed that direction.
We don't want to be over.
Having a deficit budget. We can't run out of the checkbook or the savings account forever.
You have 100 days worth of reserves
We have a very healthy tax base.
that we're not taxing.
Right. Exactly.
If, Bob, I want to make sure I understand, if we're considering this, situation here, maybe 6, maybe 8, wherever we end up there, do you need direction today to start those tax things? Or can we hash this out, take till August and still give you time?
I'm gonna unofficially start tomorrow.
Okay.
And because I gotta get some ducks lined up with your bond attorneys and some other people. On your previous agenda, there was a meeting set for August the 6th.
That's our
I
next
would
meeting.
really like some clear direction about August the 6th to go or no go.
So that's what we've said. They'll come back and tell us where we're going from there.
That we've been fine.
No,
Should we have a meeting on the
we can still
30th?
do the debt, we can still do the debt, we just wouldn't give it to the tax assessor collector. And again, it's just the debt service.
Is it
come out of
needed?
reserves, out of
Well,
our debt.
Maybe, hold on. Do y'all want to
yes,
have a
on
meeting
the
on
technical
30?
map,
Yes.
but.
I just want to clarify, that was my question. I asked the agenda.
I don't remember offhand. Especially whether we get.
Okay, hold up. Y'all want
We
to
do interest only the first year.
maybe like,
Is that what you said?
Right.
It's not happening.
No, I don't want
We
to.
can't give it to Anna, because you can't bring it like it is.
you want a 30th or not?
I grabbed
The reserve.
I'm on shift that day.
We're not having a meeting on the 30th.
Mr. Brundred, I'm not an elected official, so I don't get a vote, but I will tell you, personally, even as a taxpayer here, I think the 3.5% and the tax rate impact of moving that debt service to the INS side, which is 3 or 4 pennies, I think that's the minimum you have to do. You can decide to not do the V&E, you can decide to not do the CIP, and that would be the difference between 3.5 and 4 cents versus 6. But personally, 3.5%, that's a no-brainer. You gotta do that. You have to do that. And I would say moving up the debt service from the utility system to the INS side is something you just got to do. So I think 3.5% and 3 or 4% on INS is the bare minimum. And then you get to say, well, do we have to do the V&E? Can we postpone the CIP? This gentleman's gonna have a different attitude. But I think 3.5%, moving the 3 cents from the debt service into INS, I think that's just like a bare minimum you gotta do.
And, you know, we're presenting this to you, but we're all taxpayers too. So we're gonna live, everybody in this room, except for Robbie who lives in Corpus, who is gonna live under the tax rate that you impose. So he does have a much higher.
Yeah, he has a much higher tax rate.
He can take his punishment because he deserves it.
I think just do the 3.5.
You may want to move to Rockport.
Just saying.
You know how we have like the columns?
Huh?
Usually, yeah, like the columns, do like 3.5 to a 6, put it on there.
Do a 3.5 and do a 6.
Oh, like how you broke it down on that, yeah, long form.
Do you remember how we saw it last year? That was previous administrator.
Okay, so we're gonna do 3.5, and then we're gonna do the 1 through 6. 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent. What am I putting on there?
I just need 6.
I like the 6 and 3.5. Look, if I'm gonna do the 6, I'm not gonna go between them, we go all in or all. It's like.
Yeah, the difference
Like,
between a 2 cent and a 6 cent to me, we're gonna talk to, well, Tad talked to me, but the 2 cents doesn't get us anywhere.
It doesn't move the needle.
No. 3 cents doesn't move the needle, we're still treading water. 4 cents is where we actually got a life jacket on. 5 cents we're swimming, 6 cents we're.
Do you want like a?
But on
4.5 to
retrospect,
6?
to understand how important that 1 cent is to what can be accomplished. So does it,
Do you want a 4 or 5 and 6?
I'm kind of on your side, all in.
Yeah, no, 6, I mean,
I don't want to compare between a 5 and a 6.
And I'm confident the mayor agrees.
Because what they're lose between that 5 and 6 is impactful.
Exactly. My opinion is to do the 3.5 just because we have to show what that's gonna be. I think just to have the public see what that would even give us and what we're gonna lose, and then a 6. That would be my opinion.
Okay, what information do you want to see from those? Like, do you want it, like, he has it?
I love his presentation, but I also need to see like this, the tax roll. I mean,
Go back to your first page, please. Not your first page. Go to your first page and I'll tell you where to go from there.
Yeah.
Hold on. They do. Keep going. Stop right there. Go back. So the 3.5% gives us $400,000.
I just want to have that presented so people can see what the difference is between the 6.
Okay, this whole thing is gonna go on the web. And then we can break this sheet out for you.
Yeah.
But the 3.5% gives us the 400,000. The 6 cents gives us the 1.7 million.
Yeah, I just want to have it out there so we have to sell, like.
Sure.
We're supposed to, tell people this is why we have to do this, so we need to have the examples of why.
This whole thing is going on the web and we will email it to you directly.
Can we also show that the incremental increase per, to a average homeowner in the city of Rockport?
Yeah, the whole thing's going on there.
No, so show that $205 if we do 6 cents per.
Can you go to that? That one?
Yes, ma'am.
That's going on the web.
Okay, sorry.
The whole presentation.
The whole presentation is gonna be on the web. If you want us to break out a sheet in a PDF and send it to you, we'll do that. We'll send the whole thing to you. I'll give you whatever you want.
Can you send that to me?
Can I do what?
Send me the PDF so I can put it on.
Yes. Just actually send a PDF to everybody and then it's done.
Can I ask a question? Go to that page you were just on that showed the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do those numbers already include the 3.5%? Or is that just the INS?
That's just the INS.
No, good point. So you need to,
That is a great point.
can you give us the
Because it's gonna be more than
3.5%
205
plus?
when we add in the impact on them and over. That's a great thing I'm saying there, right?
Can you double check that, Robbie, and see if that's M&O and INS together?
Yeah, so we need,
I think it's just.
so we need another column, what that 3.5% is gonna do, and then add it up.
Okay.
Can you do that?
we need the 1 through 5 pennies if most people are?
Y'all just want
I think it's important if you're gonna put information out there, just put it as it's been initially presented with the new information attached to it.
So yeah, put the M and O, so label this as INS, put an M and O row, and then a tab.
Okay.
Is that fair?
See what I'll put together.
Okay,
The M&O at 3.5 won't change to, it's just, that's 3.5%.
3.5%.
So it'll be the same number for all.
It'll go across the board the same.
That's what that was. Rockport High School.
Go Pirates.
Took me 7 years.
Brandon got one. Okay, is there any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
I had some. I know I've heard people saying that they felt that they were, like, they were stuck and we can't move and that, you know, we can't get any CIP projects done or anything like that. And you can. This offers an avenue, not just this, but going up on the INS side does give you some capacity to borrow and do CIP projects if you so choose. Thank you, Vanessa.
For my education in the past, did I miss it in the last 3 budget cycles where we didn't catch that 3.5%? Like, why we didn't do it?
You have done the 3.5% starting with Richard Morton.
Okay.
So Richard, and then Richard's budget, and then my budget last year, we took the 3.5. Richard took 3.5 in increment, I took 3.5 in increment. And here we are today. I don't know what was done before Richard.
All right, so in 22 and 23, we did the 3.5 and no INS side.
Right.
Okay. That's important.
Also remember that you were budgeting on community disaster loan.
Yes, ma'am.
That you did not take the money from,
Yeah.
but you budgeted and spent.
Yes.
So that's a big deal.
That was almost 4 million.
That was 4 million.
I think we only budgeted 3.5.
It was close to 4 million. So we were awarded a community disaster loan, and we budgeted it every year for 5 years, $1 million a year, basically. But we did not call the people and say, send us the money. And the loan ran out, and this council consciously decided not to take it at the end, because at the end it would be a loan. Whereby, if we had taken it year by year, a lot of it would have been forgiven. So, when we say we're cleaning up stuff, we're cleaning up stuff.
I still need that drink.
If Andrea will let you go and someone will make a motion to leave, you can go get your drink.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
What you needed?
I don't need to. Time is 4:37.
Are you keeping the minutes?
Since y'all are adjourned,